First of all, being a perfect and ideal employee doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be financially stable.
Coaching or consulting?
There may be some other opportunities, right? And think about, okay, what options do I have, right, to take advantage of opportunities?
What is the best piece of advice you can give me and other young men who are working hard today to become successful? Dr. Art, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks for having me.
So I want to start this episode with a bit of a personal story with which you are heavily involved in. At the end of 2023, I was going through a bit of a tough time in my life. It felt like I was lacking purpose, maybe.
Right.
I remember at the time I was about to start an internship with Aramex, which I was very not excited for at all. And I remember it was unpaid. And I was not interested in the work at all. And the worst part was that it was an 80-kilometer drive from where I was living at the time. Yeah, it was a big headache. So some time passes, and the Aramex internship is a couple of days away. I remember at the time I was at an exhibition with a couple of my friends in Dubai when I suddenly got a phone call from a Saudi number, and turns out it was HR calling me for an interview from a consulting company. So fast forward, I end up getting the position, and I find out that I was referred to this position by a man named Dr. Art, who didn't even know me at the time. Which was the most interesting part to me. So this opportunity ended up changing the whole trajectory of my life, because after completing this internship, I ended up getting an offer to continue working with them. So this meant that I was getting paid by the consulting company. I was also making some money from my own personal business ventures, and I was gaining professional experience, all while still having one whole year to go in my university studies.
Fantastic.
So it's all thanks to you, Dr. Art.
I'm glad I was able to help.
And this whole experience makes me wonder if you've ever had a person in your life that has helped change the trajectory in your career, or perhaps open up a door for a big breakthrough at the start of your career.
It'll be very difficult for me to just pinpoint one person. I think if I look at my whole life, I've been very lucky to have a lot of people who, helped me gain access to something, open doors, introduced me to some people. So I just consider myself lucky that I've had this sort of, people, mentors, people sort of, and some people were completely strangers even who helped me sort of, get access to, either business or to schools or to learn about something new. So I think it'll be a bit unfair if I just pinpoint one person, but I've been lucky all my life.
Amazing.
In terms of people who've helped me.
Amazing. It was very incredible for me to live that experience from someone who didn't even know me at the time. So I want to move on. You were a partner at BCG for many years, which means you've got to experience the ins and outs of consulting at the highest of levels.
Yes.
So I would like to know if you would recommend people in their early 20s to start a career in consulting today.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, for a simple reason that, consulting is where you actually go through a very accelerated and very steep learning curve, right? So particularly if you're young, just fresh out of university, you haven't really figured out what you want to do in life. Spending 5-6 years in consulting is equivalent of, I would say, 10-15 years of working in an industry.
Okay.
Yeah, so it in terms of intensity, intensity of work, in terms of diversity of work, in terms of learning curve, in terms of just getting to know different people, to go see different things, different perspectives. Yeah, 5-6 years in consulting, I think is a good start. By that time, you'll figure out what you want to do and whether you want to stay in consulting or not, because consulting is not everyone's cup of tea.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned a very important word, intensity.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the next question. We all know that consulting is extremely, extremely stressful, and it takes up a lot of your time and leaves you almost no personal time to try other things. So do you think that this stress is worth it at a young person's sort of start of their career as compared to, for example, experimenting in many different areas and trying many different things?
Well, when I say intensity, I do not necessarily mean stress. Stress, I mean, in my understanding, is our body's threat response, right? There, the intensity is in terms of the intellectual intensity, because you have to really start solving very difficult problems, many times without having much knowledge, but then have to figure out the answer. Yes, there are long hours, there is long travel, and yeah, there is a bit of stress as well, but again, depends on what you want out of life, right? So if you want to go through that steep learning curve very quickly, then yes. But again, as I said, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Right? If you want to have, you know, let's say 9 to 6 job, and then after 6 you want to switch off, you want to stay in the same city, you don't want to be sort of disturbed after 6 until 9 a.m. next morning.
Stay far away.
Yeah, you don't want to sort of in your weekends to be taken away, then, you know, that's a choice. But consulting is a lifestyle choice. It's not for everyone.
Understood. So for this next question, we all know that AI is currently taking over our lives.
Yeah.
So before I ask you it, I want to actually read a few statistics that I've gathered from online to you. Okay? So I'm going to read to you statistics of some recent layoffs that were announced by major companies. Starting with UPS, they announced that they fired 48,000 people. Amazon, 30,000 people. Intel, 24,000 employees. Ford, 11,000. Microsoft, 7,000. Even PwC, 5,000. So they didn't explicitly mention that it's because of AI, but I think it's no secret that AI has had an impact on these layoffs. So I guess what I'm trying to ask you, is AI going to replace consulting?
It's a very good question. Now, if you look at, let's not just talk about AI. If we talk about technological breakthroughs, AI is, maybe it is a very substantial breakthrough, but before that we've had many other breakthroughs, right? So I remember my parents, they were engineers. They used to work quite a bit on, on a drawing board, right? And suddenly when they sort of, we started sort of making drawings on computers, does that mean that the world doesn't need the engineers? No. You know, what that meant was a lot of what I would call manual work that was done by engineers has been now replaced by more efficient things, but you still need the engineers, right? Same thing, there is a lot of, I would say, kind of repetitive manual work that is being done by consultants today, including analysis, including research, including maybe preparing a report, that AI can automate, yeah? But that doesn't mean the fundamental need of advice that organizations need, that's going to go away, right? And so it will be in a different form, but I think that the fundamental need is actually some expertise, some advice, right? That will stay on, but the quality of that advice will be different. And so you will, as with the engineering, you will stop. If you went back in even 1980s, you went to any engineering company, you would see a big hall of people standing there on their drawing boards and trying to draw things. You don't see that.
Don't see that anymore.
You don't see that anymore, right? So there are people just sitting on their laptops, computers, doing them much faster. Everything goes. You don't even see nowadays these big plotters producing blueprints, because there's everything's electronic. But that doesn't mean the requirement for engineers has gone down. If at all, the need for engineers has gone up. So I think it's just the nature of the work the consultants will be doing will be very different. But the consulting itself, the advice that people need, expertise, that will stay on.
That's a very good answer, and I want to follow up on it and say, would it be fair to say then the value that is provided by consultants might change or because of AI, meaning that a lot of the things that they deliver or the value they provide might end up being done by AI instead of them, however, while maintaining their sort of advice that they give to their clients?
Well, to me, the value of consulting is the insights they bring to the table, right? Now, of course, that insights is packaged in reports, in analysis, and everything. Well, that may not. A lot of that maybe clients will be able to do themselves. I mean, it'll be stupid for them not to do it. And if you're a consultant who actually has your client's best interests in mind, you should tell them, yeah, you don't need me for this. You can use AI. You can use ChatGPT or Gemini, and they're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
But there are certain aspects where they will still need human advice, right? Sometimes even what questions to ask your ChatGPT, yeah? And for that, you'll need consultants, yes? But, if we're talking about consulting by bringing sort of creating consulting as being a business that creates value to the clients by bringing some insightful thinking, then that will always be there. If you're thinking about consulting as, big wads of reports, with a third factor, nicely done slides, but which nobody understands, that, of course, will go away. Yeah.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. So then referencing back to the many layoffs done by these major companies, how can we defend our careers from AI and sort of use it to our advantage instead of being replaced by it?
Well, so first of all, I think, you cannot defend yourself against it, right? It's because it is coming, and it's coming as a tide, right? You cannot kind of, even if you stand, it'll just, sweep you away. But what you can do is you can actually adjust yourself. You can think about how can I actually ride the wave, right? So how can I use AI to my advantage?
Yeah.
Right? So for example, in my work nowadays, I don't spend endless hours doing, research. I can outsource a lot of desktop research to AI. Right? I can actually not just outsource the research, I can actually ask it to perform the analysis.
So it saves you a lot of time.
It saves me a lot of time. It saves my clients a lot of time. It saves my clients a lot of money. And I just do the work that requires real insights.
So you do the most important part while AI takes care of the less time consuming.
But with AI, it's like, you've heard this concept of GIGO, right? GIGO, garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, so if you ask the wrong question, they'll give you the wrong answer.
Same thing.
So the value is in able to, to know which questions to ask.
That's the strategy.
That's the value, right?
Yeah.
And then whatever the questions comes in, then you need to, AI is still not perfect. It sometimes hallucinates. Then you need to figure out whether that makes sense or not. You may have to ask follow-on questions. Even sometimes when you ask it to write a report or, do some analysis, it makes mistakes. So yeah, there's this, I think it's about Edison, whoever it was. I think, one of his turbines wasn't working, so he invited some expert engineer. The guy sat there in his power plant for 3 days, listening to all the turbines and everything, kind of doing tests. I mean, it was 100 years ago. They didn't have any sort of, diagnostic equipment. And then basically goes and turns some valve or knocks something, and then he sends a bill of $10,000 to Edison. Right? And Edison says, "What? Just turning a valve and charging me $10,000? Now give me a breakdown of your invoice." So he then sends out another invoice saying, turning the valve, $10, or whatever he did, and hitting it with a hammer, whatever he did, $10. Knowing what to turn, $9,990. So it's the same thing.
So I guess that's a good reference to the value that consultants bring into.
It's not the slides, it's not the reports, right? The value comes in changing your client's thinking.
Nice. That's a good answer to that. Great. So moving on, you've spent, like I said, many years being a partner at BCG, and then you went from the highest levels of consulting to becoming a CEO and a founder of your own advisory firm, Art of Management, which, by the way, is an incredible name.
Thank you.
As a play to your own. I really like that. So my question is, what inspired you to transition from sort of the highest levels of strategic leadership to a more entrepreneurial path and becoming a founder of Art of Manager?
Well, a number of factors played through, right? So I was getting to the point where sort of, the tradition, I was starting, getting tired of doing the traditional consulting work where you had to, the higher up you go in the hierarchy, the bigger projects you have to sell. So I'm kind of started questioning that sort of, and the more people you need to employ and have involved, the more people you need to have billing, and I kind of was getting a little bit tired of that kind of rat race, if I may call it that way. Up not having a sort of, pipeline of projects. I had a very good pipeline of projects, and they kind of dried up. So that was also kind of sort of played, and then we're looking at different options of moving abroad, and I decided, look, maybe it's the time to
do your own thing.
Yeah, go into more sort of, more personal kind of, rather than consulting way of advising to more coaching way of advising. Yeah, so I don't actually these days, I come to my clients and tell them, I don't know the answer. I don't know your business, but what I know is what questions to ask. Which allows you to then find the right answers for your problems.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's my selling point. It's like that guy. It's not about turning the valve.
Yeah.
It is about, knowing which one to turn.
Yeah.
So what I help my clients is figure out which one to turn.
Amazing. And you mentioned coaching is kind of what you do with Art of Management.
Yeah.
And which means you've probably spent a lot of time around powerful CEOs and leaders.
Yeah.
So I would like to know, what is the most common mental block or issue that you have helped your clients overcome?
See, the coaching is, if you look at coaching, it's not about telling clients what to do. It's actually helping them figure out. Right? And the more powerful people are, and with most very strong leaders I work with, there's one big issue. And that is there are not too many people who can tell them the truth or who can challenge them. Right? Because the more powerful you become, you get surrounded by people, usually, who just agree with whatever you say. And that's where I think I come as a coach, and I can challenge their thinking in a non-threatening way, so that they can see whether sort of whatever they're thinking makes sense or not.
That's fair. So you're saying a lot of the times these people are surrounded by the modern term yes men, so agreeing with everything that the CEO or the leader is saying, without having the courage to give a different opinion that might be disagreeing with them.
I mean, it's just human nature, right? I mean, if you got to a position of power, you will, in most organizations, and not just organizations, in any human unit, right? Although we say don't shoot the messengers usually get shot down, right? That's just human nature, right? And so it will come to a point where people will kind of, it is a good career strategy not to challenge your leaders. Right?
Yeah, just be aligned.
Yeah, just kind of go with the flow, right? Because if you challenge, then you get shot down. Right? And at least I can help people bring a different perspective. I mean, the worst they can do is if they fire somebody from, fire me as a coach. It's not a big deal for me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go and find another client. I mean, look, if you are working for a very high, a leader in a high position, and your career depends on his opinion of you, then of course, if you challenge them,
then you're doomed.
Then your career may be a seriously career limiting move. Versus somebody as a coach coming in and, offering a challenge in a non-threatening way, just offering a different perspective sometimes help.
That's very interesting. So you do with your work what a lot of people are afraid to do, and that is question the person in power.
I don't question the power or the person. I don't question the power. That's not my job. But what I do is I try to provide maybe sometimes a different perspective on a certain idea. That's what I do, or a certain type of behavior.
So perhaps opening their eyes to a whole different road that they...
And that's the job of a coach, is actually to help your coachee to see a situation from a different perspective. Because that's the whole philosophy of coaching, is actually help people see the problems from different perspectives so that they can, figure out the answers to their problems.
Okay.
You know?
So on the other hand, I would also like to know, spending again that time around these CEOs and people in power, what is the most common and consistent trait that you have noticed among them, which you think played a key role in their success?
Okay, that's so first of all, it's a lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of hard work. That sort of, and there's no substitution for hard work. I haven't yet seen a CEO who doesn't work, at least 70 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's a lot of hard work. That's to begin with,
70
right?
hours.
The second is, I think it's critical thinking skills, right? And then it's of course the emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think the main thing is hard work and commitment.
Okay, so with hard work, would you say that the amount of hours spent working equate to success? So the more hours you spend working, meaning the more successful you will become?
I wouldn't say that's always the case, but you asked, your question was what was the common trait among those people? Yes, so they work hard. It's not just the amount of hours you put in, but the intensity of hours you put in, and the passion you have for your organization or for your cause.
Okay.
Yeah, because you may actually sort of spend 1 hour, but with a lot of passion
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of commitment and a lot of intensity and spend a lot of energy, and you can spend 10 hours, but kind of just going through working superficially. So these guys, when I talk about them, it's not just the long hours, but it's the passion, the intensity, the energy they put in. That's what sort of makes them successful.
Great. I think today a lot of people, or even young people, lack the ability to spend, for example, even just a short period of time, like an hour
Mhm.
of fully dedicated and focused time doing a task,
Mhm.
because of, for example, external facts like TikTok or things that have
Yeah.
affected our attention span. So
Yeah.
that's a good point to pay attention to. I would like to move on to something that might be considered a little bit more controversial today.
Yeah.
What do you think of the modern ideology that university doesn't really teach you to become financially stable and doesn't really teach you how to make money in life, but
Mhm.
rather how to become the perfect and ideal employee to someone?
Well, first of all, being a perfect and ideal employee doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be financially stable, right? If you've got a good employment, then you are financially stable, right? So, and I think there is we need to first of all understand what's the purpose of university education, right? So it wasn't established as something it was started off as creating to develop an educated person.
Mm-hmm.
Employment then came as a kind of
Byproduct?
as a byproduct. I'd say so. If you look at historically all the universities that were there, either there were two kinds of things, right? One was, most of the universities, at least in Europe, if you look at them, they started off as seminaries. So they were there for religious studies.
Okay.
Yes, and then they started adding other topics. Well, it was to create an educated person, right? So now there's a question of whether a lot of topics today that we learn at universities that actually help you prepare for the job you do.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, universities are not vocational schools.
Okay.
They're not vocational schools. They're there to give you all-around education too, right? You will not maybe learn how to do a certain, unless you're studying finance, you may not know how to do financial sort of an analysis and everything. I think the only places where the sort of university equates to vocational education would be if you're studying engineering, medicine, or you're going into deep down into certain topic financial analysis, marketing, then yes. But what university gives you is something else, right? It gives you a critical thinking skills. It gives you problem solving skills.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you communication skills, and it tells you that, okay, next time you encounter a problem, where can you go and find a solution?
Okay.
So that's what universities give you. Now, having said that, like, should the universities actually also think about, getting people ready for work? I think so, yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So maybe a change in the way that traditional teaching is currently could be.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it should be, yeah, I mean, there is a place for academic education, but I think there's also a need to prepare people for work.
Mhm.
Yeah, just having people who can write brilliant essays, but are completely unprepared to work, I think is doing disservice to people.
Mhm.
Knowing that at the end of the universities, people will have to go and look for jobs.
Yeah.
So maybe there is a case for preparing, giving a little bit more sort of practical work-ready skills.
Yeah, more real life skills
Yeah.
that would make them
Yeah.
prepared for their actual work that they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess a lot of this ideology comes from people today, which I want to ask you about. Like, have you heard of people like Alex Hormozy, Andrew Tate, or Iman Gadzhi? They're basically influencers or people
Mhm.
who today have shaped the mindsets of young men.
Mm-hmm.
And they sort of promote this idea that there are better ways to become wealthy and successful away from traditional learning. For example, like learning a high income skill and monetizing it. So what are your thoughts on that?
Look, they are right in the sense that, okay, there are a lot of successful people who haven't been to university or even dropped out of university. And usually people bring examples of Mark Zuckerberg,
Yeah.
Steve Jobs,
Of course.
Bill Gates, right? So they all of them kind of dropped out of university. I think all of them went and sat in their parents' garage, and then boom,
Yeah,
comes
suddenly.
Facebook and Apple and Microsoft, right? So that part is true. But what we need to understand is life is not deterministic; it's probabilistic.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at, let's say, people who left universities, dropped out of Harvard or whatever, the same year as Mark Zuckerberg, how many people dropped out, and how many of them were successful?
Probably almost.
And then you look at the people who managed to stay on in Harvard, and you look at the success rate. I think you'll come to a different conclusion,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yes, you can always pick one person up. But it wasn't because he didn't go to university. It must have been a combination of, first of all, the things you said at the beginning of this podcast about, there's an element of luck.
Yeah.
They might have been right at the right place at the right time. Plus, they may have something else, which not everybody possesses.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can become Steve Jobs. Not everybody can become, Bill Gates.
Mm-hmm.
They had a certain maybe other skills or other traits. So, I think overall, again, right? So just going to university for a single person doesn't mean that they will be succeeding better had they not gone to university. But if you look at the overall population and then think about, okay, people who go to university versus who do not go, maybe you'll come to different conclusions.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So, Dr. Art, you are also a professor of strategy and change,
Yeah.
change leadership in IE,
Yeah.
correct? I would like to know what is a core philosophy that you follow when it comes to teaching leadership.
Yeah. Again, as in coaching, I also in my teaching, I'm not really sort of, when I'm running courses, executive development programs, I'm not really teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a facilitator of the learning process. Because most of the people I work in executive development programs, they're already established leaders.
Yeah.
They know a lot about their business. They know a lot about, the real life situations. But again, what I help them to do is to maybe take a step back and see a big picture view, and maybe learn from whatever the science has to offer, plus the experiences of other organizations, to come to their own conclusions. But I never give them solutions. So I don't teach, I'm just a facilitator of a learning process. Learning happens when the participants reflect on their cases, reflect on the cases of others, provide feedback to each other. That's where the learning happens. And I also learn in the process.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not claiming to be a teacher of any topic.
Okay. So, and is that common in coaching, or is that something specific to you? Or is it because I think there's a lot of responsibility involving giving advice for someone, for executives or people who own their companies or CEOs. And there's a lot of responsibility there when you tell them that this is what you should do. So, what you just mentioned, is it purely your philosophy when it comes to coaching, or a general thing?
Well, I mean, coaching, that's the philosophy, right? That's the coaching philosophy, is you don't give the answers. You help your coachee to come up with an answer. That's the difference between coaching and consulting.
Okay.
Yeah. So in consulting, yes, we come and tell them this is the answer. Right? In coaching, we actually help the client figure out what the answer is.
By pointing them in the right direction with
Not
questions.
even with just asking the questions and saying, have you looked at this? Have you looked at this? Have you looked at this? You know, how does this look? How does this look like? You know, a lot of times people say, I want to go from A to B. You ask them, why do you want to go to B? If you ask them, you know, for long enough, maybe they'll realize that they don't want to go to B. Or they, after you've sort of, you know, tired them with your questions, they will actually be they'll be much more convinced that they need to go to B.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the job of a coach. Consultants actually come and say, no, don't go to B, go to C, that's better.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay. So there's a clear difference between coaching
There
and
is a
consulting
different
there,
in
yeah.
approach, right? We're still giving advice, we're still giving insights, but there is a different approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. I would like to know if throughout your career, where, like you said, you've done consulting, you've done coaching, you're a professor, there's a lot of things that you've done, and you've done them at the highest levels. I would like to know, was there ever a time, specifically with coaching, where you were like, okay, this result that we got makes me feel like this is the reason why I do this, or this is why I love doing what I do?
Many times, and particularly in coaching, I think it's good. Like it's not like it's not one event, but it's the whole process of coaching where you kind of see light bulb moments coming in, and people starting thinking about things in a different way. That gives me satisfaction. It's not about just helping someone to solve this particular problem. It's actually the sort of satisfaction comes in now that, okay, the person is about thinking about the problem in a different way.
Okay. And you kind of see your influence there, right? Like you can see that because of your question, you have pointed the person into a different direction. And is that what gives you the satisfaction?
I help them see things from a different perspective. I cannot turn them to a different direction. That's their choice.
Yeah.
Right? But if they see, let's say, you know, you may have, and it's common with very successful people, is because they become successful because of certain strengths, right? And so if they do not get sort of, you know, challenged enough, then they will sort of develop a tunnel vision, right? And they may be blindsided by a lot of things. So a lot of work as you do as a coach is actually pointing them to and saying that, okay, what is happening in your blind spots? And showing them those blind spots.
Okay.
And then you get those light bulb moments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. I want to move on to a more fun segment
Yeah.
called This or That.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to ask you or give you two choices.
Yeah.
And you have to give me one. We don't really have to give me a reason to
Yeah.
why unless you want to.
Okay.
Okay? Let's do this. So, a corporate job or entrepreneurship?
For me,
Yeah. This is personally for you.
okay, I think entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship. Okay. Engineering or business?
I'm still an engineer at heart, so engineering definitely.
Okay.
But just, I mean, for fun, huh? Not for money.
Okay. But you've done no engineering work, right?
I did. I look. You know, after I've graduated from I got my master's degree. I started off on a PhD program as an engineer. I sort of, you know, about 1 year. Then I did some engineering work. I'm deep in my heart. I'm still an engineer.
You're loyal to that part.
No, it's just that sort of, you know, that gives me that sort of, you know, that sort of plucks the string in my heart. I love, you know, I love sitting there with sort of, coding, solving mathematical problems. It's just fun.
That's very interesting. That's a very interesting perspective. So I want to ask you, coaching or consulting?
Coaching, definitely.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Your time at BCG or with Art of Management?
That's a difficult question because with BCG, I mean, I still have got very, very, very warm memories. I mean, very warm association, emotions associated with BCG. It's a fantastic company. It employs fantastic people. I've still got a lot of friends there, and and they do a fantastic job, right? But then it comes a sort of I think there comes a point in your career where you don't do that. So, look, I'm very happy with what I'm doing at Art of Management, but I was also very happy with what I was doing at BCG. So it's a fantastic company.
It's a difficult one then, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have a last one. Working in Dubai or working in Riyadh?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, both cities have got their own sort of, own charms, and and Dubai has got more sort of, I'd say more intensity, more vibe. But then the kind of work we're doing in Riyadh, it's really, particularly with Vision 2030 and so many changes happening, Riyadh has got its own sort of, and it's very difficult. I mean, I won't be able to make a choice there. But both cities, they have their own charms and yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, I want to conclude this podcast with some advice.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Dr. Art, what is the best piece of advice you can give me and other young men who are working hard today to become successful?
Again, right? I can't give you advice because look, the life where the stage at where you're in your life, right, and the challenges you're going to be facing are going to be very different from the ones that I faced when I was, let's say, 23, 24, right? And the world was very different, the technology space was different, everything was different. But what I can see happening is that, what, even when I sort of started working, kind of the idea was, okay, you're going to have a lifelong job. Mm-hmm. I think that will be gone, right? So you will need to prepare yourself to kind of keep on changing jobs, but it's not just the jobs in terms of which company you work for. What's going to happen is the nature of work is going to change quite fast. And the knowledge that you gain is going to be obsolete very quickly. So you have to prepare yourself to learn. It will be a constant learning process. It's not that, so when I finished university, started working, the learning kind of stopped after university. Yes, you learn some from experience, everything, but here, learning will be continuous, and the nature of work you're going to be doing is going to be very different.
Okay. Yeah. I realize that I used the word advice in this question when currently what you do is not give advice, but allow us to ask the correct questions. Yeah. So I just want to add to it. Perhaps you can tell me what is the best question that I or other young men could ask today to figure out if we're going in the right direction or not.
Okay. So in strategy, we've got a tool called SWOT analysis. I think we showed that about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Just kind of try to do maybe a SWOT analysis of yourself, right? In terms of what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are the opportunities, because the world is changing all the time. Yeah. So there'll be new opportunities, but there'll be all the time new threats coming in. Like, so AI comes in, let's say, if you're just writing reports and not really doing any value-adding job, AI comes in and takes your bread. So that's a threat.
Yeah.
But there may be some other opportunities, right? So, and think about, okay, what options do I have, right, to take advantage of opportunities, to respond to my threats, leveraging my strengths and addressing my weaknesses. Try to, maybe every 3 months, try to do that kind of exercise to think, okay, where do I go? And that's the most useful, way of using that SWOT analysis. Because a lot of organizations, people just do SWOT analysis and academic exercise. It's a laundry list of things. No, the value of the SWOT analysis is really then, okay, saying that, okay, if this is the situation, what's my response? What options do I have to respond? Yeah? Does that make sense?
A lot of sense.
Yeah.
Dr. Art, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Yazan.
Thank
It's
you.
a great pleasure.